Anything is possible. New freeze and a lot of them.
What's up, buddy? Sorry, I cut out for a little bit.
No worries. I'm good. I'm doing well. How you doing?
Just hanging, ready for the weekend. It's been a long week. But yeah, man. Well, listen, pumped to have you on. I know this is round two, so I'm excited for us to do it the right way. For everyone who doesn't know, this is episode 13 with Seth Cohen. He's one of the founders of Sweetfin, one of my personal favorite go-tos on Postmates. Really, really excited to have you here, and super casual, man. I think we would just love to hear a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and how the journey really kicked off into the world of poke and fast casual dining.
Well, thanks for having me. This is my first IG live, so I apologize for some possible noises in the background. I have family in town, so it's a little bit crazy in my household. But yeah, I started Sweetfin with a few partners back in April of 2015. So we just reached our 5-year anniversary, which was really exciting. And we have 10 locations throughout Los Angeles and San Diego, so 8 in LA and 2 in San Diego. We're about to open number 11th here in a couple weeks, which is really exciting, even during COVID. And we're excited to grow the brand. We're a fast casual poke concept. We really focus on sustainability, chef-driven flavors. Can you see me?
Yep, you're so good. Keep going.
Sorry, buddy. It's really bright.
Yeah.
Being chef-driven and differentiating ourselves in the fast casual world. We have 94 million different ways that you can build a Sweetfin bowl. So from vegan options and plant-based options to a ton of different proteins that we have. I think we've done a really good job of differentiating ourselves in the fast casual market, and we're really excited to continue our growth.
I love it. Awesome, man. Well, I guess my question is, if we're just going to back up and start, you're originally from Los Angeles, right? Tell us a little bit about, early days, where you went to college, and maybe some of your first more professional experiences prior to just jumping in.
Sure. So I did grow up in LA, loved growing up here, and had just a desire to go to USC from an early age. I just knew that's where I wanted to go to college. I wanted to continue to build my network here in Los Angeles, and I knew that they had a really strong entrepreneurship program at SC. So fortunately, I applied and got in, and I just always loved entrepreneurship. Both my parents really pushed me to take risks. That's part of my personality. I love being creative, and even at college, I was just always hustling. I started my first business in college was shuttling students to and from USC to Hollywood, and setting up deals with some of the different nightclubs in LA, and also I guess being the first Uber, as you could say, from downtown LA to different parts of Los Angeles before that existed. But I always had a passion for food and hospitality. My family has a background in real estate, so that was important to me to learn. And all those kind of passions of mine, food, hospitality, and real estate, really formed into one kind of entity, which is Sweetfin, which I get to do on a daily basis.
So you're in college. It sounds like you're trying a number of different things, just hustling, finding great ways to make money or just build businesses or new ventures, etc. Was there always that affinity towards the restaurant business, which, by the way, is notoriously one of the most challenging businesses you could probably get into, right? Because even pre-COVID, you've got such razor thin margins. But did you always know I might want to be a restaurateur or create fast casual concept, or was it kind of like a natural progression? I don't know. Did you have any experiences with fast casual that kind of led you down that road, or?
Well, when I was in college, like you said, I tried a few things. I was an intern during the financial crisis at Wachovia Securities, and that was quite an experience. But also I had the opportunity to work under the president of global venues at Live Nation for a couple of years while I was in college. And, you know, I just loved that environment of, you know, really, even though it was a concert type venue, it was really a hospitality venue. They had restaurants and they were taking care of their guests and their concert goers. And just being around that environment really kind of fueled or continued to fuel this passion for wanting to create something in the brick and mortar world. I was one of those kids, for whatever reason, that was drawn to the Food Network. So you know, growing
What were
up,
some of your favorite shows on Food Network? Because I did too. I loved it.
I mean, you got to go with Chopped for sure. You know, anything Guy Fieri, Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives was a lot of fun. But I was just someone that loved being in the kitchen. I loved to cook. It I think was one of the ways I could be creative, you know, during college and after school. And you know, I didn't know that I wanted to start a fast casual restaurant. I just knew that I wanted to create a business that could scale. And, you know, after taking entrepreneurship classes at SC and really doing my homework and learning about the model and the
What's up, man?
I'm really sorry about that. I was sitting outside and
Dude,
my phone just overheated. So
no worries
great.
at all. It happens. It happens. It's 100 degrees outside. It's all good.
Okay, where were we? We were talking about entrepreneurship and the impetus for Sweetfin.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, I was working at Live Nation. Financial crisis hit. My boss unfortunately got laid off. It was kind of very similar to COVID. It just happened super quick, and I was kind of scrambling. And fortunately, my father had always wanted me to work with him or at least learn from him for a little bit. So he runs a company that's in real estate, mortgage lending and banking, so for commercial and residential properties. So I jumped in kind of headfirst with him, and I essentially just learned the basics of real estate, which was really important, and I'm glad I did it. But through working with him and being in that environment, I just knew that crunching numbers all day wasn't really for me, and I wanted to do something more creative and something that I was passionate about. So, in my spare time in the office, I would kind of take notes of potential business opportunities and things I thought were exciting. And, during that time in the early 2010, 2011, Sweetgreen was coming up and Chipotle was really taking off. And I really thought there was an opportunity in the fast casual market for something different. Everyone was kind of doing the same thing, salads and sandwiches. And, that's kind of where the idea for Sweetfin was born. And, we started with one store in 2015 as a concept, just to, try it out, see how it went with the goal and the ambitions of scaling and creating systems in which it would allow us to scale. But you never really know until you get your feet wet, so to speak. So, we started with store one, and fortunately, we were able to do well.
How did you just, obviously you're looking at Sweetgreen, which is taking off. You're looking at Chipotle's incredible success. Both have bowls. Where did poke come into the mix? What was that initial inspiration to oh, maybe there's an opportunity in serving fish in a poke bowl as a concept?
Yeah, I mean, again, as I was doing my research and due diligence into the business, there were just a few things that I knew, if you're going to start a fast casual concept, it needs to hit on a couple things. Number one, it needed to be healthy. Whatever I did, I knew it needed to be healthy. I knew that the trend of delivering takeout was only expanding. So how can we make sure that we have whatever product we create, it's portable? And also with all the different fast casuals, you saw a big trend in the customizability. So those three things, being healthy, being customizable, and being portable were the three kind of areas that I looked to make sure that I was on the right track. And I had eaten poke before, and I just had this aha moment where I was eating it one day, and it was just so similar to the flavors of sushi. And, I also looked at the growth of the sushi market. I looked at the cost of, going out for a sushi meal and satiating those flavors or that type of meal. And it would run you at least 30, 40, $50. If you went somewhere high end, it could be north of $100. And that wasn't very approachable for most people. So again, looked at the market, saw if anyone was doing it, and there was really no dedicated concept in the entire country outside of Hawaii that created a concept around poke.
Did you have your first poke bowl in Hawaii, or was there like one spot that you remember where you had, maybe it was internationally, but where you had one and you're like, wow,
I went on a trip with my family to Maui, and we went, when I travel, I would use Yelp. So I went on Yelp and I saw that this poke restaurant was the #1 rated restaurant in the entire country. So I was super intrigued. So I went and checked it out with my dad. And there was like just a 30-minute line wrapped around the corner of this store. And it was literally a shack. It was like a hole in the wall. And we ate and we got a bunch of takeout. And it was so casual and it was healthy. It was flavorful. And, it helped that, I saw that my dad loved it. So another generation was really into it. And it was just kind of like this aha moment where, we just saw an opportunity where I think that you can create a category around this. I think it had enough depth, enough that you can do with it using poke as a vessel to create a million different flavor experiences that you want to. If you bring on the right chef and you really kind of be innovative, there was just a huge opportunity to do something different.
I love it. So you have this idea. You guys put together a brand and kind of a great team ready to launch you. I guess my one question to you would be is when you're launching a fast casual brand or chain, you got to hunker down with these long-term leases. You got to make a pretty significant bet and shoot. It's great that you had exposure to real estate, so you could hopefully make an educated guess or decision on where you're going to put the first, Sweetfin location. But was there any like extreme anxiety or nerves? Like I don't know how long your lease that you had to sign was, but how did you kind of go up against a lot of that noise and criticism and kind of fear of diving into something that really had some pretty real financial commitments?
Yeah, I mean, just getting store #1 off the ground was crazy and challenging. And real estate, coincidentally, was one of the biggest challenges for us for a couple reasons. So when you're approaching a landlord, they want to bring in a tenant that not only is going to sign a lease, a long-term lease, but they want to make sure that that tenant is going to be there for a long time. So they're looking for credit-worthy tenants or brands like Starbucks or Chipotle or a Bank of America where they can plug and play these, national concepts essentially and make sure that they're going to get paid their rent in the worst case scenario. So we were not only an unproven brand, no one knew what Sweetfin was, but to make matters even worse, no one knew what our category was. So we would approach landlords, and the first question, the broker, the landlord would ask you, what are you guys trying to do? And, we would explain ourselves, well, we're a poke concept. And no one would, now poke it's a category in food, but take yourself back 7 years ago when we were initially looking for spaces, there were no poke concepts. So, I remember one landlord was like, is that like a Facebook poke? Or you guys doing something digital? It was like,
yeah.
Like no one knew what the hell we were talking about. So things happen for a reason. And, we identified this space in downtown LA up in Bunker Hill, which is a kind of like the core of the financial district in downtown. And we were super excited about this space because, it was perfect. We're going to test our concept. We're going to be able to do a lot of lunch volume. And, we signed the LOI and we're about to go to leases. And I get a call from the broker and he says, listen, guys, I'm really sorry. I know we're really far down this process, but we decided to go with another concept. It's a grilled cheese concept because that was just more palatable for the landlord. So we lost that deal, and it was a bummer because we got really excited about it. We started to do our schematics of how the space planning would look. So that fortunately worked out for the better because we found a space in Santa Monica, which ended up being our first location, which made way more sense, in every which way, from density, both in terms of office, but also you had residential density, you had parking, all the things that we look for now that we didn't know to look for were in the Santa Monica spots. So we signed that lease, and we had to go raise money. So we raised close to $400,000 to open store number one, which was the concept store. And just as challenging as it was to convince landlords to take our concept in, it was just as challenging to raise money. So the partners ended up having to put in the majority of the equity into that deal, which ended up working out great for us in taking that risk. But, long story short, to answer your question, yes, it was very, very nerve-wracking getting up to that opening day, because we had a 10-year lease on the line with a personal guarantee of a couple of years, and also all the equity that we had invested into this concept. So fortunately it worked out for us, but that's part of, I guess, being an entrepreneur, right? Taking risks.
Yeah, and this was just for you when you guys, went to raise money and it was incredibly challenging. Was it just like, look, in your gut, that this concept works and you're gonna really, how did you guys come to the final decision? Like, okay, we're gonna really make this happen, because it's a really big bet. I mean, as I said, this is one of the hardest industries you could go into. So what was that initial, or that, I guess, that spark? Was it when you tried it when you were with your dad in Hawaii, or was it when you didn't really have another choice and it was like, okay?
Sure. So so my partner Brett and I essentially conceptualized this idea of doing poke. And we started creating a business plan, and to be honest, we quickly realized that we didn't know shit about the food industry. So
Yeah.
so we reached out to a family friend of Brett's, and we brought on a partner named Nathan, who's our third partner, and he had been in the hospitality business for 20 years. And at the time, he was running the food and beverage. He was the food and beverage director for the W in Westwood, and his chef was Dakota Weiss, who had just finished filming Top Chef. So we all sat down one afternoon, and Brett and I kind of pitched this idea of doing a concept of poke. And Chef Dakota Weiss, she loved it. Alan really liked the concept. And so that afternoon we became partners. And essentially what we did is we met on a weekly basis at the W, and Dakota would create these like amazing tasting sessions where we would sit and eat and tell her what we liked and what we didn't like. And we would iterate. So we felt like we had a product that we could serve to potential investors and our friends. So, we probably did, I probably tried 100 different types of spicy mayos over a month's period of time.
You guys have the best, like your sauces are just next. Same with the bamboo rice, by the way. It's just amazing. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, Dakota's a creative genius, and we really leaned on her to, we didn't want to be traditional, and we're still not traditional in any sense of the word. I mean, our seasonal bowl right now is a Oaxacan summer bowl, so that couldn't be less, traditional if we tried. But so we started doing tastings for friends, and I would just see my friends eat the food, and I trust their tastes, and I know that we're all kind of I trust their opinion and their taste preferences, and they would sit and taste, and they loved it, and they give us feedback, and we continue to iterate, and then until we got to the final product, which was opening day.
I love it. And okay, it's day one. You guys just launched Sweetfin Santa Monica. Is it everything you expected? Is it, what happened?
So we opened in April 15th. We were supposed to open in December. So December comes around, and we're getting ready to open our doors, and the health inspector comes in for the final health inspection, and he just rips us a new one. He's like, this is wrong, that is wrong, you got to redo this, that, the other. We're like, shit, like, this is really going to delay us. And then on top of that, he's like, I'm going out of town for a month and a half. I'll see you guys in February, or something ridiculous.
And you're ready to open, right?
We're
so
ready.
That was
We have our GM hired.
Yeah.
We're like ordering food. We're like so excited, and that happens. And so essentially, like, we had these beautiful vinyls that we created outside of our storefront. which were like these bowls of poke, and they were just like really appetizing looking, and people would just walk by, and it was a busy area with not a lot of food options at the time. Believe it or not, Santa Monica was like kind of a little bit of a food desert back in 2015, and people would walk by and they get really excited about what we were doing. And when that opening day finally came, there was a lot of pent up demand for the product. So, you know, fortunately from day one, I mean, we had lines out the door, 50, 60 person lines, hour waits. We had to close our doors between 2 and 5 p.m. just to give our team a rest, and so we could restock for the night. We had someone working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in the store, like frying crispy onions, because, you know, part of our whole concept is that we're scratch made. Everything's made in house on a daily basis. So we're making sauces, we're pickling our own vegetables, we're fermenting our own hot sauce. Everything that we sell, we make in store. So that's a labor of love, but it's also, we weren't ready for the volume that hit us.
And you guys still do that today?
We do, yeah.
That's amazing. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you have like a central hub that does that for all 10 restaurants for some of the scalable ingredients, or is it all in the back of house of each location?
So the only thing we make at certain locations are the fried items, because not all of our kitchens have fryers, but our kitchens operate, you know, like a traditional restaurant kitchen. It's not like a fast casual restaurant where we're getting a bag of lettuce and cutting it open and just putting stuff on the line. You know, again, everything is made daily in-house. And I think our guests can taste the difference.
Do any other fast casual restaurants do that?
I think Sweetgreen does a really good job of, listen, I don't know what their operations look like, but, you know, they're very transparent. When you go in the store, they're breaking down vegetables, they're cutting chicken. I'm sure that the vast majority of what they're making is made in-house, but there are also quite a few brands that don't do it that way.
Well, that's crazy, but I mean, that's definitely why you guys are you know, such a front runner in quality. I had no idea. That's really interesting. Okay, so initial store is a success. You guys are really starting to gain traction. What does scale look like for you? How are you guys thinking about, okay, we have something, product market fit here. How are we now going to move? And I'm sure you've got competition and other people that are like, oh, poke, that's a great category. You know, I even remember traveling during like 2017, 18 and seeing your pink fish and like very similar concepts popping up all around the country. So.
Yeah, I mean, the poke market, I think the term was poke explosion or something that some media writer came up with. I mean, within a matter of 2 years in LA, I think there was over 300 poke concepts in LA County. Crazy. Or something like ridiculous. And that was both frustrating and scary at the same time. But we knew that if we focused on quality and really developing the best brand and being unique, that we would be able to stand out from the rest of the pack, so to speak. And we've done that. But we took our time opening store number 2. So it took us about a year and a half from opening number 1 to getting number 2 open. We talked to franchise lawyers. We talked to different investors. We really just wanted to nail the operations of store number 1 before we got into number 2. And the second location we opened was in Woodland Hills in Topanga. And that store was just really different from the first store. It was 1,800 square feet. So it was about 50, a little bit over 50% larger than our original location, different layout. But it was a good learning experience. In that we really got to learn what our box would be moving forward. And that's something that even over the last 5 years, we're really only starting to learn of what does a Sweetfin look like? How can we best optimize our real estate, and how do we need to optimize our real estate in an ever-changing world?
Makes a ton of sense. And so that location was obviously a success.
To go back to your question, we raised a small fund. This time it was a lot easier to raise money. We were getting a ton of press. The poke category was exploding. Fortunately, we positioned ourselves in a way to be like the kind of higher end concept in the space, the best branded space, or best branded concept with the highest quality food and product. And you know, so anytime a writer would write about this category, typically we would be either in the first paragraph or have like the opening kind of photo, the hero image in the article. And so that just opened so many doors for us. You know, we were talking to investors that I never dreamed of talking to in 2016. And what we did was we raised a fund that was supposed to open up 4 stores. We ended up opening another 9 just through some really creative financing that we did, and some convertible notes and other things. But we haven't raised a valued round since 2016. So
by the way, that's really impressive, especially with how capital intensive this type of a business is. Just as a sidebar, like, I mean, really expensive to run a restaurant company. So the fact that you guys haven't raised since 2016 is badass. That's really cool.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, we opened 4 more stores in LA, and then we just continued to grow.
I love it. I love it. Really interesting. And so you guys now are in 10 locations.
Yep.
As the business is continuing to grow over that 5-year stint, you know, what's been your biggest obstacle? Would you say really just getting to proof of concept in the beginning was one of the biggest challenges? Is it now where you sit, you have a sizable foundation? Like, what's your biggest obstacle you're facing with Sweetfin at the moment, pre-COVID, and then we can dive into the implications with everything that's happened.
Yeah, and I think they relate to one another. The key for us is finding good real estate. And before COVID, the real estate market on the commercial side was just so hot. It was a landlord friendly market. They were, you know, they controlled the market essentially. Rents were getting out of control. You have 3 main costs in the restaurant business. You have your cost of goods, your labor, and your occupancy costs. And if you can control those 3 things, you have a good business. And we were just seeing that our occupancy costs were getting way out of whack. It was really challenging to find space anywhere that fit into our model that we were comfortable with. And as you know, unfortunately, COVID has changed the dynamic of this landlord-tenant relationship in a lot of ways. And we're finding that it's much easier right now to identify real estate that works within the model that we're comfortable with.
Do you think that's power of, do you think that transition of power is power of brand, and also just the fact that there's so much uncertainty in real estate and with people being able to pay their rents?
Yeah, I think it has to do with both. I think that landlords and property owners now more than ever really want strong brands that have operational history, rather than, it goes back to our original, you know, first location. If you're a startup restaurant business right now, it's probably extremely challenging to convince a landlord to get a space. I guess it's unfortunate, but you also have a lot of businesses that are not going to make it through this, right? So how can we be opportunistic in our approach for real estate to find spaces that work for us? And that's something that we've identified quite a few already, and one that we're acting on with our new store opening in a couple weeks.
What I think is really interesting about what you guys have done is you've obviously built the business responsibly, which is why the company is continuing to grow in an environment where most people are on defense, which is really exciting. But what is the future of fast casual looking like? I mean, you guys have literally been one of the top things that have been ordered on Postmates, which is an incredible accomplishment. But like, what's your game plan moving into a post-corona environment? As you continue growing? You mentioned looking for great real estate opportunities, but what about cloud kitchens and the way that you know, digital is really going to shift with digital storefronts and restaurants and direct to consumer delivery and same day delivery?
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure your guests have spoken about it, and everyone knows that COVID has really just accelerated pre-existing trends that were already happening, especially the digitization of the entire, food industry. We're seeing a massive increase in digital sales, both through third party and through our own loyalty and app and online delivery software that we've created. And that's something that we're investing in heavily in technology as we continue to grow because that's where the business is going. I think, in terms of a ghost kitchen, and having ghost brands, it's very challenging to get those off the ground unless you have a brick and mortar that's already operational or really strong brand loyalty. So if you're, for example, a Chick-fil-A and you want to open a cloud kitchen in a market that they're not in, they're going to do just fine. And they're probably going to do huge volume because they have brand recognition. But if you're starting, X, Y, and Z concept with very little marketing funds and no way to really get your name out, it's really challenging to find really what you're doing is you're finding real estate on these third-party apps, right? And there's so many people jumping into this cloud kitchen game, ghost kitchen game, that you just have hundreds and hundreds of these delivery-only brands that are living on the app. So it's really hard to get found. We think that the trend of delivery, pickup, loyalty rewards is only going to increase. So you need to really figure out ways to own your data, own your customer information, which is something we're investing in. How can we figure out ways to effectively communicate with our guests? Because we've run tests and promotions and different marketing initiatives where, we can text message our guests, send them push notifications, emails, and we really see a bump in sales when we do that. So really focusing on garnering data from our guests is extremely important, and also leaning on our third-party providers to help us determine where we should be opening our stores. So where's their demand for a category? Where's there not a lot of competition? What is a market that's underserved? Where do we see demand for delivery growing? We're utilizing that data from our third parties to help us inform our decisions of where we're going to open moving forward. But I think, for any brand in the fast casual world, you're going to see a downsize in the real estate footprint because no longer, it's very clear that you no longer need a large dining room, right? So there's no point in paying for that extra real estate. So you want to drive your occupancy costs down as much as possible and be as efficient as possible in your footprint, which is why in the restaurant world, this statistic of sales per square foot is so important. It's really just telling you how efficient are you in your box. So we're looking to figure out ways to open stores that are small, under 1,000 square feet, and then also supplement those stores with different potentially ghost kitchens where we know our brand is already recognized, but we're not serving that area.
Have you seen some of those Starbucks curbside and pickup locations that have been in China for the last few years? They're like 500 to 1,000 square foot pickups with a little kitchen in the back. But I really think that's generally where the world is heading. One question I have for you is, Sweetfin's built enough of a brand now, in my opinion. I don't know if you agree. Like, would you ever open a cloud or a digital storefront in New York, do a pop-up for 2 to 3 months to build hype and momentum with a small storefront in a heavily, in a great, heavily trafficked location, and then pull back on the pop-up but still have the digital storefront?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great way to, going with a ghost pop-up, essentially, the benefit of the ghost kitchens is that you're really limiting your risk, right? The cost to open up a new store is very capital intensive, but when you're jumping into a cloud kitchen or a ghost kitchen, whatever you want to call it, typically the kitchen is already built out for you. So you're really only coming in with minimal costs, right? You're bringing in your smallwares, and then you have some training for staff. But I think that example that you just gave me is a great potential option for us to test different markets. And New York is a market that we've been studying and looking at for years, and we think is underserved for this category for really strong brands. And we're looking for other markets as well. We
Just to
finally,
ask, there's got one. My buddy Brendan has a really awesome company called Rover, and or Hover, and he's in the comments right now. Would you ever go into like? Have you looked at Toronto or Vancouver as a
yeah,
potential location?
we have. I have a few friends up in Toronto. They think it's a great opportunity, but right now, we're really focused on dominating Southern California. We think there's still room for us to grow here. So we have Burbank, and then we're getting close on some other locations in the South Bay, Manhattan Beach, El Segundo. We like Long Beach. We like to go down the coast. So I think we could do another location in San Diego, Orange County. We can really have a strong business here. And then as we continue to learn, build out our operations team, we can then start to look at other markets, because until you have the right team, it's very challenging to scale this type of business, in different markets that are not, an hour or two drive away from
Awesome.
the home office.
Makes a ton of sense. I guess like as we kind of trend towards the end, and you've been really generous with your time, so I appreciate it, man. I guess for people who are really interested in diving into the space, who potentially want to open their own concept or fast casual location, what are some of the words of advice or things that you've kind of learned the hard way that you'd recommend if someone was going to go down this kind of a pursuit and build something?
In the restaurant business specifically?
Yeah.
It's I guess know your customer, know your potential customer. The restaurant business has very few barriers to entry, and that means competition is fierce. The consumer is very fickle. Trends are changing quickly. So it's important to have a really thought out concept that is not a trend, that has legs, and really fits into a lot of these trends that we've talked about. I think portability is really important. Does it deliver well? I think this health and wellness trend is only increasing. I think at least choosing either being super healthy or unhealthy, but being in the middle can be challenging. But again, also understanding the finances behind restaurants, because again, it's a very easy business to start, but it's also a very easy business to fail in, because a lot of restaurateurs or potential restaurateurs just don't understand a basic P&L, right? What does it take to run a successful restaurant business? You have to understand your food costs. You have to understand your labor model. You have to understand operations. You need to make sure that you can do enough sales to support your occupancy costs. So really doing your homework, understanding your model. I think utilize expensive ways to test the concept, whether it's a ghost kitchen or a pop-up or doing deliveries from your home. Get as many people as possible to try your product and get feedback and learn from them and iterate as needed. But you want to de-risk the investment as much as possible, because opening a brick and mortar restaurant is not only risky, but it's extremely capital intensive for the build out, and then also hiring, training staff, and all the other costs associated with opening a fast casual concept.
That's awesome. Great advice. I guess to wrap it up, where, anything that we should be on the lookout for? You mentioned a few new Sweetfin locations. Well, what's the future look like for Sweetfin, and what's your favorite menu item that you recommend people check out when they stop by a store?
Sure. So we're growing. I mean, we're really taking this opportunity. We took the last 2 years to focus on our operations, to focus on our efficiencies, to learn. And we feel very confident that we've cemented ourselves as the category leader in this space, and we want to grow. So we're out on a daily basis looking for real estate. We're looking for talent, for people who want to join our team. We really believe in this category. We're excited about the future. And, we're also being innovative. So during COVID, we created a new brand that's delivery only called Plant Shop, which takes our chef-driven approach, but puts a vegan spin on it. So we're doing vegan bowls, vegan salads, and snacks out of 6 of our Sweetfin kitchens in LA and soon to be San Diego. We see a real opportunity to create additional ghost brands and increase our efficiencies and sales per square foot at our locations. So, we're continuing to innovate, and we think that the opportunities for growth are really endless right now, which is exciting. And within a crisis comes a lot of opportunities if you're smart about it and you're opportunistic. And we feel like this is our time to really shine and take advantage of a changing real estate market. And my bowl.
That's awesome.
You
Yes.
got to know my
Go-to bowl.
I'm gonna build my own bowl with our sustainable yellowfin tuna.
Okay.
Yuzu kosho, which is a citrusy sauce made from a Japanese yuzu fruit. Bamboo rice, and then top it with, of course, our crispy onions, edamame, cucumber, chopped serranos, and some shiso, which is a Japanese herb.
Dude, I may need to order that for lunch today with Josh. We're gonna go pick that up.
I'll send you one.
I love it. Well, dude, Seth, congrats on everything. I know it's exciting to hear stories like this, especially during such a challenging time. Always been such a big fan, and appreciate you making the time today. So thank you.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
Awesome. Have a good one, buddy.
You too.